Were the Clippers actually shielding Kawhi Leonard from questions about the Aspiration scandal investigation? It sure looks that way. Why didn't we get more information at Media Day from Kawhi? Why didn't he give us details? Well, it's because the Clippers stopped it from happening. We're going to get into that in just a moment. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Joining me, Donnie Freeman. Donnie, man, this Kawhi thing, it doesn't shock me. Frankly, on Media Day, I thought Kawhi said maybe a little bit more than I would have expected.
I was about to bring that up.
I was screaming, like, why was there no follow-up? Why was there no question about, okay, if you say that you don't agree with what's going on or what you've been accused of or what is being reported here, why don't you give us some details? Now we know why he didn't. It's because the Clippers put a stop to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, was this before or after? Because remember, Kawhi got up there and I was like, it's uncanny. This is the dude that never says anything. And now we got a situation where he just won't shut up. He's saying too much. He's talking them into a corner here. So, yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Did he say too much? Like, if you're going to, I think he said too much if you're going to say anything at all.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to shut it down completely and just say, I'm not talking about that. I'm focusing on the season. But the things that he did say, he got into it a little bit, but then just like Bomber, didn't provide any details. But check out Ramona Shelburne here talking about
he still owed money. He said, you guys are worried about the money. Actually, truth be told, they still owe me more money. Like
I need more money for doing nothing. Take a listen here to what Ramona Shelburne had to say about what happened and why there weren't any follow-ups, why everything kind of got shut down. Check this out.
And I asked questions. Then I could have kept going, but somebody kind of reached out and grabbed the mic from me.
Somebody from Clipper PR?
Yeah, it was like, okay, you're done now. Scary. And then it went to a team reporter, a team TV reporter who asked about being healthy during the offseason. And then the next one was like the team radio person, and they asked another question that was more basketball related.
Right.
Then it got back to, I think, Law Murray from The Athletic, who asked an aspiration question, but it was something about how do you not make it a distraction or something. And he gave a whatever kind of answer to that.
So
and then he was done.
It was fluff at the end.
Then it was done. And I will say this, it's important to note, because people are like, why were you the only one asking those questions? There were 5 or 6 other reporters in the room. Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated, Beth Harris from the AP,
all that were going to go
Steve
down
Henson
the same
from
line
LA
of
Times,
questioning
Janice
that you
Carr,
did.
OC Register. We had all talked before the press conference, and I said, okay, so we're all going to ask aspiration questions, right? Because this is his first public statement,
right?
Like whoever gets this, like let's tag team, like whatever.
Sure.
Listen to whatever everybody else asks, and let's make sure we ask. We got to cover all the bases here because this is probably the one and only time he'll address it. And they all had their hands raised and they weren't being called on.
Right. The Clippers were playing defense.
They were, Chris Mannix was kind of in the back of the room and he was, wildly waving his hand.
I like John Ireland there. The Clippers were playing defense. So essentially the reporters going in. So Ramona, why didn't Ramona ask that? Because that was my frustration. Why didn't Ramona ask those follow-ups? Well, because all of these other people were trying to get these questions in and they had it all planned out. Okay, you're going to ask this, you're going to ask this, you're going to ask this. Let's talk about that dynamic and then what this ultimately means for the Clippers and for Kawhi in just a moment. Ever heard of the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoy playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualization on all of them. A news feed with lightning-fast updates, critical for me, and a real-time chat. So download the #1 app today. Experience it for yourself. I made a few picks here for this coming week, and I've been out on Dak Prescott in general, but more than 0.5 passing yards. Yes, please give me that freebie. And then I'm going Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs, sticking with the running backs, having both of them getting into the end zone. If you guys want to get into it, go check out Sleeper. Use the link in the description down below and use our promo code Bulletin and get a $100 deposit match up to $100. Plus, they've got now a new promo, a free $20 entry, no deposit required. That's right, a free $20 entry. Got to jump on that. Again, use promo code Bulletin, get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, so effectively, the reporters in the room had all planned All right. These are the big topics we want to talk about with this Aspiration deal. They went to Ramona first, and then the Clippers PR went, we got some Aspiration questions here, and then funneled the microphone to Clippers TV host, Clippers radio. They're not going to ask anything about that, right? They're only going to ask questions about what's happening on the floor. So they made sure that the people who were going to ask the follow-up questions were not given an opportunity to speak, to even answer or ask those questions, which Donnie brings me back to, like, why even allow him to talk at all about any of this if that's what you're going to go to those great lengths of denying reporters the opportunity to ask questions because you know what those questions are going to be? Why even allow him to begin to answer? Why not just make the company statement be, we can't talk about this since an investigation, and that's it? It was more frustrating that he started to answer some of these, and like you said, had the guts to say they actually owe me more money, but then to not get any details than if he had just shut down the questioning to begin with.
I mean, Kawhi was like, man, we knew this was going to come out. This is something that's old news. It's new to you, but just old news, man. Like,
he made it sound like you guys are, this is no big deal. This was so 8 years ago. This is nothing, man.
Crazy. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't just take the approach from the jump. Hey, just to let you guys know, we're not going to answer any Aspiration questions. If you have any,
exactly,
we're not answering those. You could say that off camera pre start of this event. And then also, if you don't get the chance to say that, Kawhi, hello, they ask you a question. All you got to say is, hey, I'm not going to talk about that. And it's annoying when players do stuff like that. But if that was the end goal here is to not really take these questions, and why even address it at all? You might as well have not said anything from the jump, because all you did was just, basically make it look worse. You didn't help at all. So why even talk about it? So I think, to me, it's kind of a little bit silly. And that's not, like I said, that's not an uncommon approach. A lot of times when there's stuff like that, organizations, players, whatever, they'll do stuff like that and say, hey, we're just not going to address this. Unfortunately, maybe next time we'll talk about it. But today we're not talking about it because X, Y, Z.
Well, and I think it has to change our perception of this, because the sentiment that I saw out there online a lot was, well, they only let Ramona ask because Ramona's going to give softball questions. That's why she did the ESPN interview with Steve Ballmer, because they knew Ramona was going to toss him softball questions. And I actually thought that, well, could she have challenged him more? I thought she did just fine in terms of at least, pushing and getting some information and trying to get some detail out of him. But the way this was characterized, the way people were responding to this was, the Clippers are just leaning on Ramona to ask these easy questions, and that's all they're doing. No, that's not what was happening here. The more difficult questions were coming, and Ramona knew that. I think when she explains that, it puts her also in a much better light, rather than the way a lot of people see her as just like the mouthpiece for the team. She's saying, oh, no, there were other questions coming. The Clippers stepped in and prevented that from happening.
And it was almost like a precursor. She set it up, and the other guys were going to drive it home, basically. It's how it was. I think there's a delicate balance between the reporters, because inevitably, they could receive backlash, whether online or from the team, if they ask the wrong questions at the wrong time. It's a delicate balance, and fans are always upset when they don't ask these players or whoever the tough questions all the time. But I think even with that, and obviously the fact you didn't want to antagonize Steve when she did her interview with him, I think she asked solid questions even then, really. She just kind of let him off the hook a little bit with I don't know. I'm like, she said, how do you, a man that's made as much money as you, how do you not know, like things like that?
There were fans who wanted her to be out for blood, and I don't think you were never going to get that
point. You're never going to get that. Antagonize these guys. They're not going to act that way. And that's unfortunate. Maybe that would be cool if they were able to do more, but they're just not going to do that for a lot of different reasons. And in this case, the Clippers had, like I said, I don't know why they didn't just say, hey, Ramona, we're not answering your questions today. They don't have to tell her that, but just avoid her, because they clearly avoided everyone else.
We're not talking about this at all, right? Well, and they could very easily fall back on, it's a league investigation, so we're not going to.
But they avoided literally everyone else that had questions that they thought would have questions, and just put it to team guys basically to ask the questions specifically about the team. They could have opened the whole thing like that, frankly, and not bothered, because they had to know that somebody was going to ask something about it.
They had to know there were a bunch of more difficult questions that were going to be coming. Now, maybe Ramona got the mic first because they knew the more difficult ones weren't going to be coming from her, and then shut it down. I mean, that's certainly possible. But again, I was frustrated with Ramona. Like, why didn't you follow up and ask? Well, okay, what specifically did you do? If you say that you don't believe it's true that you did nothing for the company, fantastic. Right. What do you do here,
freaking Kawhi?
What did
you really went up there and said a bunch of things, man?
He did. And I'm frustrated that didn't get asked. Now we know why.
Yeah. What did you do, Kawhi? You said you did something. What did you do? We would like to know.
the classic, late 90s movie Office Space. What do you do here? What would you say you do here? The meeting with the Bobs, but this was Kawhi's opportunity to talk about it, and the Clippers went and kind of ran around and made sure the mic didn't get to anybody that was actually going to ask a difficult question. So at least now we know what that was all about. Maybe we'll get more details here coming. But if the Clippers are going to do everything they can to shut down any of these conversations, and I'm not saying that would be a surprise or other teams wouldn't take that strategy, we may look back on that media day presser with Kawhi as really the only opportunity to get any kind of information out of him. And we really didn't get a whole lot. It's still kind of, oh yeah, we definitely didn't do anything wrong, and we welcome the investigation because we can totally prove we didn't do anything wrong. Great. How can you prove it? Nothing. No indication of that just yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder what the questions will be like for their first preseason game. I didn't realize their first preseason game isn't until a week from today. They don't play at all until the 9th, right? So there's still quite a ways until then. So
is that right? They wait that long to start? I have not. Shocker, I know, but I've not been up to date on the Clippers.
I think they're in China or something like that for this game. So
I think you might be right. Schedule, yeah. They don't play until October 9th. That's their first preseason game.
Yeah, so I was going to say maybe that'll be the next time we hear anything about this, but even I would have to imagine that for their next media availability, whenever that is, they take the approach we talked about in this video. Or it's just, we're not answering questions.
When did they plan this trip to China? That's what I want to know. All this stuff came out and they said, let's get out of here. Let's go to China. How many reporters will actually follow us there? Probably not many. Let's go to China and we'll play a game there for preseason.
The team guys will be the only ones there, so don't worry about it. You're good.
Right.
And then Ramona's right there, like, God damn it, she followed us.
All right, everybody, give us your thoughts in the comment section about the Clippers, as John Ireland said, playing defense to prevent more questions about Aspiration from getting to Kawhi Leonard. Was this underhanded by the Clippers? Give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Until next time, everybody, see ya and stay safe.